we could just imagine how hard it is to make a studio album when you think about what goes into it, all of the production, the writing, getting the right features together. It's obviously a long and complex process. And for today's video, Lou and I are going to have a conversation about that just because when you look at it from the fans' perspective, I don't think we always think about that. And what we did was interesting because we also had that conversation with you guys on our YouTube community tab, and the answers were kind of polarizing. They were interesting to say the least. We're going to go through some of your conversation starters more towards the end of this video, but we have a question for you guys. How long is too long? When do you guys get fed up of when an artist is taking too long to roll out his album, or you're getting delays, or sometimes they announce an album and it never drops? Let me know in the comment section. But Lou, this is going to be an interesting episode because you and I have conversations about this all the time. We do rollout content. We've talked about bad rollouts. We've talked about good ones. Do you think automatically when you look at, let's say, an artist dropping an album, the length of the rollout matters to the point to where it's either going to be a successful rollout or it's going to be one that's going to completely flop with the fan base? How do you feel like time has a factor into it?
I think it's really a case-by-case situation. We've seen artists execute on these high-level rollouts within the span of 2 weeks and have you literally immersed into a universe like Tyler did with Chromacopia, where through all the visuals, all the singles that were released before the album dropped, you were locked in to this new character and this new sound that he was teasing. And then you have a situation like the latest Clips album where there's months and months of preparation, of interviews, of, just these different stimuli, coming towards you as a fan. And you're still locked in. You're still eagerly anticipating the album. And we're going to see how that turns out, even for a mythical album like The Fall Off, which has been teased for close to a decade at this point. How will it affect people's excitement? Will people really still want it as much as they did 5 years ago? But yeah, it's a case-by-case situation. I don't like the idea of you got to take the YB approach. You got to feed the fans every year, right? Because take a company like Apple. They drop a new iPhone every year, and they always bring new features. Sometimes it's an extra useless camera. Sometimes it's a new spread of iPhone colors. Would I buy an iPhone every year, or would I wait a couple of years to actually get a valuable upgrade? You know what I mean? So it's I think it's a case-by-case situation. But for you, do you feel like there is a set amount of years where it's if you haven't dropped after maybe 3 years, 5 years, 6, 7, it's too long. It's too long no matter which artist you are?
I think I'm going to answer this the same way you did. It's a case-by-case situation, right? So I'll give you guys different examples. Think about Detox, right? If Detox would have dropped in 2010 after I think it was probably a good 7 to 8 years at that point when it was supposed to quote-unquote drop, I feel like it would have shaken the industry. But at a certain point, as you continue to get into the late 2010s, early 2020s, the conversation just completely died on that album. So, I mean, that's too long for an album rollout, right? Where you're announcing it, you have different features on different albums, like The Game was saying that it was coming out, but it never did. That's too much. Do I think we're in J. Cole territory now with that same situation? No, I don't think so. I think it's a completely different situation. And when we put up the IG post where we were we put the rabbit meme and we put J. Cole's The Fall Off in the corner, a lot of people made a valid point where it's you just got Might Delete Later in 2024. What are you guys really waiting for? And while I do agree, do you think this plays into it where it's the artist won't give you the main product, but he gives you kind of a teaser in the meantime?
For sure. I mean, yeah, look
do you really see that as bro, I'm waiting for The Fall Off?
Yeah.
Might Delete Later was...
It's cool.
It was a good album.
Yeah.
I got Trade of Truth and Bees. I got Crocodile Tears. I got 3001, but... Are you really holding off the fans until The Fall Off? That's what I'm trying to say.
As much as I love Dark Lane demo tapes, it didn't, remove that itch of me really desperately wanting to hear Certified Lover Boy in 2021 when it came out. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's the holdover strategy is definitely one that we see a lot. We've seen fucking Rockstar Games use the same strategy where it's okay, we're going to hold you over with a trailer, and now we're going to hold you over with a second trailer, and now we're going to give you a date, and the date's going to change.
And it's going to get pushed back.
So it's, then there's that whole strategy too, where it's take Playboy Carti, for example. He literally is bigger than he's ever been, has more motion than he's ever had, and his biggest album to this point is arguably his worst album or his most mediocre album. And I think that with him, you could say he order farmed his way to getting one of the biggest albums of the last couple of years. You could really make that point, but that strategy is not going to work for every fucking artist. Playboi Carti was able to do that because he had just dropped in 2020 one of the biggest game-changing albums that just flipped hip hop on its head, bro. Not every, like, take a Polo G, for example. He waited 3 years to drop Hood Poet, and his career's never been the same since then. The album flopped. He lost all of his hype. It's not the same. Same with the Roddy Ricch, bro. He waited 2 full years to drop Live Life Fast, and it was so lackluster that people felt like it wasn't worth the wait, and it changed their perception of him. It's like, okay, like, is this still the guy that Ye believed in? Is this still the guy that could have been the new face of hip-hop? So, again, back to, like, that similar point we're making of it's a case-by-case situation. It really is, bro. Like, a good example, Top Gun came out like 36 years ago, bro. Huge hit, cult classic. People still quoting that movie to this day. They dropped a sequel 30-something years later, bro, and that movie made at $1.4 billion. Again, there was a reason for that, bro. They had IP that was so fucking valuable that people were foaming at the mouth no matter how much time had passed. Same thing with GTA 5 to GTA 6. Same thing with Playboi Carti's Whole Lotta Red to I Am Music. But my question to you is, how many artists have that luxury? Can an A$AP Rocky truly take 7 years off? Can a Frank Ocean take 9 years off?
Yes, he can. I'll explain to you the difference.
He can, because he dropped Blonde, bro.
Yes, so I think it's like you have to be able to play the long game, right? Where people stop saying we're fed up of this, is when you drop a game-changing album, because people also fall in love with the lore of the album, the community conversations about the album, and as much as I love Testing, and I think it was a great album, I don't think it was a culture shock like Blonde was, for example, right? It was a great album, but people were kind of like, okay, like, that's cool, but I'm kind of like, I need better, you know, at this point in time. And I think that's up to the artist to gauge, right? Like, you got to tell where it's at. Same thing with Kendrick Lamar, for example, after Damn. That album was a fucking game changer, right? If you go and you drop an album right after that, it's going to take away from that experience. You don't let the music live.
Yeah.
But Kendrick couldn't take that same situation with Section 80, for example. Because, yes, it's a fucking fantastic project, but was it a game changer like GKMC? No. So now you drop the game changer, right? And a lot of artists fall victim of this. Think about Playboi Carti, for example. I'm not the biggest fan of Whole Lotta Red, but I could recognize that I Am Music is definitely not on the same level. Absolutely not. You have to be able to consistently top out the album that you dropped or provide a new experience on that same standard. And I think Kendrick achieved that with dropping To Pimp a Butterfly in 2015. It was 3 years off since his last album. And if he would have done like Carti did, for example, and dropped an album like Section 80 after it, it would put his career into a completely different direction. So I think it's case by case. For a Roddy Ricch, yes, Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial was a marketable album. It was big. There was huge records on it. But did it really like have the same effect as A Whole Lotta Red did? No. And they came out at such similar times too. And you see one artist who took it to that level and one artist who just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, you have to really affect pop culture, bro. If you're going to really, take that long of a break, you have to have left people with a good taste in their mouth, bro. Pause. In the sense of like, your last body of work or your last offering was some fucking generational art. And when you build a reputation for making generational art, like a Quentin Tarantino, for example, your audience, you have them forever, bro. They're going to come back every single fucking time.
And you're immortalized.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you wait 2 years, 4, 8, 10, 20. It doesn't matter, bro.
It doesn't.
So I think that a lot of artists in this new generation are playing this card when they don't really have the keys to the castle yet. Baby Keem is a great example.
Baby Keem is a great example, right? But that's the perfect example of a new generation artist who has, I guess you could call it sort of a new generation sound, where obviously the Melodic Blue was in 2021, but a lot of his sounds are still prevalent to this day. Still sounds advanced for its time. It's aging super well, doing super well on streams. That was a low-key a cultural moment what Baby Keem was able to accomplish with the Melodic Blue. But at the same time, there's only a certain amount of Baby Keems. I feel like the artists have a hard time playing that middle ground where it's like, okay, I just dropped an album. It got a lot of good core reception. We had great streaming records on there. I put my direction into a completely different stratosphere, but it's like, was it really that? Was it really on the level of like, now I'm in a completely different position where if I wait off and I'm able to drop something even better, if I don't drop something that's better, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Think about it. Because then people are going to be like, what did I just wait fucking 3 years for?
Yeah.
I waited for nothing. And that's the way I felt about Roddy Ricch. It's the way that I felt about Polo G. Like, the baby was just spamming albums at a point. Like, that's another guy that took that route of quick albums. Or they go that route, right? Where it's like, we got a great fucking album, but 8 months later, I have a new studio album. Same situation with Migos. Got Culture. January of that year, or February, something of 2018, bang, bro, you get Culture too.
It was maybe a less than a year
where they try
after,
to capitalize too fast, but then again, you don't have time to fully flesh it out. So what is the perfect middle point? Is there an artist in a current situation or that executed on it in the past where you're like, fuck, that's a tricky play to make, but like he or she made it happen. And now it's put them into a completely different conversation.
Yeah, I think the number one artist that comes to mind when it comes to, and we've said this before, just perfectly balancing output with quality and not making fans wait too long. It's Tyler, the Creator. He's done it time and time again with his 2-year album Rule, which he just broke with Don't Tap the Glass, which fans still seem to have loved. I don't think that it's a chromacopia. I don't think that it's an Igor in terms of how it's affecting pop culture.
But people are fucking with it.
People are still fucking with it. And either way, before that, looking at Call Me If You Get Lost to Chromacopia, you even got a deluxe of Call Me If You Get Lost, which had what would have been some of the best songs on that record. So it's like, if you want to give people some holdover material like we were talking about earlier, make it worth their fucking while, bro. And that's something that Tyler, the Creator, was able to master.
Yes, and I feel like it's also, you got to have something before that's worthy of it. But in the situation of a J. Cole, for example, where you've had all this time between albums, did Might Delete Later really fix that hunger?
No.
Since the offseason.
It didn't change much. I mean, I think that the excitement is still there for fans because they're seeing him evolve into this beast of an MC, right? Like, he's in the best form that he's ever been in his entire career, if you've really been listening to Cole. So that being said, he has other advantages, other leverage to be able to withdraw this album for such a long time. But I think it's reached the point where it's like, all right, bro. Like, it's here. It's reached the ceiling, bro. Like, people don't want to hear anything else if it's not the fall off.
True.
I don't think people want another Dreamville tape. I don't think they want another Loose mixtape. It's the fall off for nothing at this point.
It's time. It's time to drop it. It absolutely is. But Lou, you want to go through some of the YouTube comments?
Let's go through some of the YouTube comments. So we have two different questions. One that was asked on YouTube, one that was asked on Patreon. On YouTube, we asked our community, who's the most overdue for a new album? Yeah. Any artist. Top comment, no surprise, was Frank Ocean.
Are you
741 likes. This is my thing with Frank, okay? We have the numbers here. It's been since the last time Frank Ocean dropped an album, 3,357 days. Blonde came out 9 years ago. There was him teasing an album in 2019. Then in 2021, he stayed busy opening up the Homer fashion line, the luxury company. Then in 2021, rumors of him shopping around an album to labels. Nothing ever fucking came out of that. 2023 headlines Coachella. It's a disaster. People call it uninspired as a performance. They say he wasn't even trying. Big mess. In 2025, this is what's interesting. This is a new piece of news. It was confirmed that he was working on directing his first feature film, shooting it in Mexico City with an actor named David Johnson attached. This just shows me, guys, that the jig is up, guys.
It's over.
The jig is up. And I'm happy for him, bro.
Yeah,
going into a new creative venture.
Like, the catalog is fucking top notch, right? You have a Lauryn Hill situation here, which I think is interesting. What else do we have from the community tab? What do we got here?
All right, this is a good one from Arva Kuka, who said, Baby Keem, guy just started his career and dipped. And yeah, listen, you could argue if the melodic blue was strong enough to make people wait 5 years for an album or not, but I still think that we speak about this all the time, where it's like hip-hop for the rookies, for the up-and-comers, it's such an open field right now.
It is.
Why not fucking strike while the iron's hot? You were one of the hottest names in the early 2020s for hip hop. Why didn't you continue? You went on tour with Kendrick for the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers tour. Like, you had so many eyes on you. Why didn't you keep that going?
Yeah, I think there was things that played out of his
Yeah.
factor, right? Like 2022, Mr. Morale drops. They put all their attention there, brought him on tour. He was going to be performing material with Kendrick. They had records together. 2023 would have been a great year to drop, considering that it was quite dead. But at that point, he was still on tour. Like, it would have been tough to roll out a whole other album, then go on tour again.
But he was supposed to, though, 2023. We were at Oceaga, and he's like,
this is the
new
last
album
time.
coming soon. This is the last time I'm performing this set list.
There we go. But you get to 2024, and obviously the beef happens, and then forget about it. It's completely cooked now.
2025, Cardo Got Wings says that he's in his Batman cave somewhere in Nevada, that he's cooking, that he's going to come out soon. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but it's been complete radio silence from Keem, and this was another example of a year where there wouldn't have been too much competition for him.
Yeah.
Like, he could have played in 2025 and had a massive moment, but you know what? If it's a case of like he really wants to level up from the Melodic Blue and he wants to like perfect his album, and that's a whole other subject we didn't tap into, is like that whole like perfectionist, gift or curse, whatever you want to label it as. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he just wants to make the best music of his career, bro. That's
Maybe
what I'm thinking now. What else could it be?
No,
It's
there can't be
2025.
anything else. And even for someone like Baby Keem, I feel like he is someone that if you get an album from him, he could completely change the sound of hip hop again.
Yeah.
He could completely flip it on its back, and it's going to inspire a lot of people.
Yeah, all right. Two non-hip hop artists got commented. Someone said Rihanna quit playing with me. It's been almost 10 years. Someone else, Arts and Music, said Bruno Mars. It's been 9 years since 24 Karat Magic, my guy. And with Bruno Mars, it's been interesting.
Because you got the Silk Sonic album.
You got the Silk Sonic album. You got one of the biggest songs of the decade with Die With A Smile with Lady Gaga. It's like bro is doing all of these side quests, but he's not dropping the solo album.
Well, he's in that massive Las Vegas residency thing as well.
Yeah.
He's tied into that.
But that's another big like frustration I'm seeing from fans when it comes to these artists, when they're able to sort of like track their careers and like track their movement, and like it's like shit, like why is Rocky making a movie with Denzel Washington when he could be dropping his album? And like
there's a time and place to do it.
And you can't restrict an artist to just being one thing. These guys are not robots, bro, that live in the fucking studio.
Sometimes you're down to do something
You
else.
want to change it up, bro.
And I think in the case of Rocky, like you have gotten like cool projects from him, but again, like that hunger for an album after testing is still alive. It's still relevant. And this goes back to a point that you were making. Like if that's not filled and that's not like happening for the fan base, you can't just drop like you can, but you like these collaborations are not going to have the same effect. You could do as many Puma collaborations as you want, but I still feel like it's go time, at least from the music listener standpoint. But in the case of Rihanna, speaking about A$AP Rocky, I mean, listen, she's in motherhood, and they were just talking about how like they don't feel like they want a nanny, or like they really want to be with their kids. Like they didn't wait this long to have kids just to like kind of push them to the side for their own careers. And I respect that, to be honest with you, because you have two global superstars.
Yeah.
Rocky being married to Rihanna is obviously going to get more album sales, and it's going to put more eyes in front of him, more coverage, more everything. But at the same time, it's like if that comes at the consequence of your personal life, like I guess that's where the artists are sort of like in a hard place, So
They are in a hard place because, again, if you're A$AP Rocky and you've made your fan base wait 7 years for this album, the expectations shoot through the fucking roof, bro. And they're going to expect a masterpiece.
Okay,
They are.
So let me
They
give
are.
you another example. Let's talk new generation rappers, all right? Look at someone like a Shay, for example, or even Osama-san, who just dropped his most acclaimed project to this date with Psychotic. And Rest in Bass, which Fantano gave a 7, got great community reception.
Yeah.
At what point do those guys deliver again? Do they pull the opium card and maybe wait like 2 or 3 years, or it's like they need to be back next year and they need to top that shit?
They need
Polish
to be
just-
back, bro.
Yeah.
They need to be back, and I think that a big reason for that too is that a lot of music being made not only through like the rage side of the community, but even looking back at some of the other artists we were talking about, like The Baby, Roddy Ricch, Polo G. A lot of that to me is music for the moment. I don't think that those artists are making timeless music, and I think a big reason for that is because they're gravitated towards and they're inspired by what's hot now, what's trending now. And in terms of like what an artist has to offer, I'm not saying that you need lyricism to make good art. I'm just saying that messaging matters a lot for timeless music. And I think that when you lack that, that's just another point removed for being able to put out timeless art.
And I think with that type of music too, like if you look at everyone, think about maybe like Kanye West, Dr. Dre, Eminem, like, you know, even Kendrick, Cole, Drake, like using all the same sound and production, right? What would be the distinguishing factor to make that cultural moment happen that we were speaking about at the beginning of this episode, where it's like, okay, you just ushered in a new sound.
Yeah.
You brought in a cast of producers that people haven't seen before. Like, I was going through Psychotic and I was going through Rest in Bass. You listen to the production, it's eerily similar in the way that they're not only mixing their records, the way that they're writing them, the same flows, the same vocal inflection. So I feel like if you're going to take the time now to jump back next year, now they need to jump back next year. Let's see a different direction. If these guys are as talented as everyone is making them out to seem, like, I believe you guys. I couldn't do what they do. But now it's like, let's have some standards and let's push the sound forward if you are going to come back with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to the rollout as well.
And
you could have a grandiose rollout, but if you're not innovating and you're not dropping something for your fan base to be proud of, that's when they're going to be like, what did I even come into at the end of the day?
And that's something that I have to give some credit to Yeet for, in the sense of, like, I think he's far from being like a well-rounded artist that has a lot to offer, you know, in terms of his mic presence. But that being said, project to project, I feel like he does try to always level up his production or give you a new production style, sample from a different array of sounds, or add new vocal inflections, try out new pitches. Like, I do see him trying to change his shit up, and I respect that.
You have to at the end of the day, because it gets stagnant for not only you, but for your fan base.
100%. I want to read 2 more comments before we move on to the Patreon question. So, one person here said, this was a good one. Where is it? Here we go. Andre 3000. He said he can't make one due to creative limitations while proceeding to have the greatest features of all time on other rappers' songs. This is so fucking accurate, bro. Like, this guy continuously drops the best fucking verse of the year. He's been doing it for the entire 2020s decade, saying that he's an old man, he has nothing to rap about. Bro, did you hear your own verse on Life of the Party? Did you hear your verse on Scientists and Engineers? You have shit to rap about. You're rapping better than 100% of the rappers in the game today.
And I'm sure if that album came out, it would get a load of attention and people will go to 3 Stacks for that type of knowledge. Like, his verses are always like sort of, I would say, set in like the history books every time he lays a verse. Like, he's that type of artist, right? So if he comes back, like, I don't think it's going to be a game-changing album like A Whole Lot of Red where it's going to completely flip the youth on its back, but I think it's an important album to have because, yes, maybe you're not able to drop a cultural moment every single time you drop a body of work. I don't think that's what music's even supposed to be. To have the flip side of that conversation, though, you still have to drop something that matters, and you know what, 3 Stacks are to get that type of writing. And I think that, listen, if he feels like he can't write a full-blown studio album right now and it's not for him, that it's just not for him. That's the way that I feel about that situation.
As I go to Patreon, the last one I wanted to mention from the YouTube prompt was someone said a good Kanye album. So that's who's overdue. Kanye to drop a good album.
Yeah, I'm due for that, bro.
Yeah, I think we're past that, if I'm being honest. On Patreon, we asked a different question. How long is too long to wait for an artist to drop a new album? Let's go through some of these. The Striped Mouse says 4 years for mainstream artists, 2 years for newcomers. A newcomer should never wait too long, otherwise he'll lose the momentum he's built. Yeah, I mean, listen, when was the last time you got like a debut album that really shook the culture up? It doesn't happen like that anymore.
It doesn't happen like that. Yeah, I feel like we've also lost like those titles, right? Like the debut album in a rollout or building out a discography was so pivotal, right? And there was a lot of artists that actually suffered from dropping too good of a debut album, then it got put in that category. So with that being said, do I think it's a bad thing? Yeah, because if you miss that excitement, right? I feel like The Lost Boy by Cordae was like one of the last real hip-hop albums that had like that debut effect, right? Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial was kind of the last ones too. So Much Fun with Young Thug was a great debut album, got labeled those, but as we continued on with the decade, it kind of just simmered down and that conversation is no longer existent, low-key.
100% agree. Alex Al with an interesting one. Depends on the artist. If we had to wait over a year for a West Side Gun album, that would be too long. I agree with this in the sense of like West Side Gun is not an artist who's going to have a massive transformation from one album to the next. You know what his wheelhouse is. You know what world he likes to exist in. You know what type of pocket of beats, what kind of crop of beats he's going to pull from, who his collaborators are. Like, he has a formula. It's a good formula. But you don't need to wait 5 years for a West Side Gun album.
That's it. And that's where the conversation comes where how long is too long, right? And West Side Gun and I feel like the entire Griselda crew have been so consistent in delivering their formula over and over and over again, and them dropping every single year kind of keeps the fans sort of updated though with like a new software, but it's the same computer,
Yeah.
right? You get what I'm trying to say? You're getting your software update. You're getting something that feels fresh and new for you, but it's not gonna push the sounds and the boundaries. And you're right, like West Side Gun realistically can't wait fucking 5 years to drop an album.
Can't.
No, like you need people to be checking into you every single year because you depend on your community of people that you have coming into these albums, right? So that's a good take.
All right. Next up, B Wall says, "Don't be dumb too long. Really kind of killed my excitement with all the delays." This has been obviously a popular comment. I'm seeing other people said the
This
same
was
thing.
genuinely a concrete example of an album that took too long to come out.
Yeah.
And
the best example.
And I think Rocky just suffered or benefited from a lot of personal experiences in his life, like becoming a father, the whole situation in Sweden, like the whole thing that happened in court. Like it was just so much, bro. Like the guy can't drop an album in those climates.
Yeah, and it was just the idea of like, if you're gonna be telling people that the album's coming out on a certain date, you want to hold true to it. Like even after he delayed it, after that August 30th date didn't happen, he said fall of 2024. That you should have never said that
because
if you
people
weren't
don't believe you.
100% confirmed.
Yeah, because people just don't believe you at that
and
point.
yeah,
But yeah,
and that's what it is. The fans end up feeling lied to, bro. They feel fucking blackballed to a certain extent, and they feel like they've been tricked, bro. But that being said, it's an interesting conversation, and I think that ultimately the main takeaway from this conversation to me was that it really is a case-by-case situation for every artist, and the art comes first. Fuck time, quality over quantity, always. That's one of the biggest things that we've always stood by. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let us know, is there a conversation you guys want us to have about the current state of the industry or anything else like this, because we love having these talks. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.